Great. Good morning and welcome to Dreamforce. Welcome to our session, How to Use APIs to Integrate Customer Data with MuleSoft and Service Cloud. I chatted with a couple of you guys this morning, really interested in learning a little bit more about MuleSoft, how we can actually use it with Service Cloud. And I'm really excited because Ryan will actually be showing a live demo around how LendingTree was able to use MuleSoft and Service Cloud to unlock their third-party home loan data and pull it into an experience such as the Service Console. My name is Esther Chen. For those who I haven't said hello to, hello and welcome. I am so privileged and excited to be here with you guys today. I'm also joined on stage by Ryan Hollander, who is a PM at MuleSoft. You guys will be seeing a lot of exciting new product announcements, but a quick forward-looking statement to really base your purchasing decisions on the products and services that are currently available. I wanted to start this morning by sharing with you guys a personal story of mine. So I live in the Bay Area. I actually live in San Francisco. And for those of you who don't know, San Francisco isn't the cheapest place to live. And so I started doing some research. What would it take to someday buy something here? I started looking at home loans, what I would qualify for, and needless to say, it was very complicated. I had a lot of questions and I had no idea where to start. And so I decided to call in for support to answer some of my questions. And this is what my experience was like.
All of our representatives are currently busy. Please stay on the line, and your call will be answered by the next available representative. The estimated hold time is currently less than 96 minutes. You are currently caller number 32, waiting to speak with a representative. Thank you for your patience.
Am I the only one that's been placed on hold before? It seems like every time you call in for support to get, question answered, something really simple, you are placed on hold, then you have to provide all this additional information. So for me with home loans, I had to tell them my name, my history, what my income was, and then, even ask them, these are what I think I qualify for, I'm not sure. And so it was really, a complicated process. And for the service agent, when I think about them, they're probably really stressed out as well. They're alt-tabbing between a bunch of different screens trying to answer my questions, and the important information about me, their customer, is really not available. Let's look at a different experience. What if instead of only being able to call in to get your question answered, you're able to communicate with an agent on a variety of different channels: call, chat, messenger, you name it. You're scrolling on your mobile phone like here. You're on a loan website such as LendingTree, and within the interface itself, you're able to talk to a service agent directly. And on the side of the agent, instead of needing to scramble and panic because they don't have the information in front of them, everything they need to know about the customer is right in front of them. They're able to see your channel interactions, your customer information, and information that even lies within a third-party database, such as home loans. And I want to talk about home loans specifically because this is actually within, like I mentioned, a third-party data system. So how is it that the agent is able to see it within their service console? And that's really where MuleSoft comes into the picture. For those of you who aren't familiar with MuleSoft, very simply, it's an integration platform, but the power is that it allows you to very easily integrate and pull in any data, system, or device wherever it is, whether it's in Salesforce or not, so that your agents can be empowered to see everything they need to know about the customer in front of them. But why is it that it's so difficult to achieve? Why is it that when you think about customer service, a lot of the times you're put on hold? Your agent really isn't able to answer all your questions. And the reason is because a lot of your important customer information is actually housed in so many different systems. Now, who here in the room are Salesforce customers right now? Show of hands. Wow, so many of you guys. Welcome to Dreamforce again. So you are probably familiar with this screen. This is the Service Console. Now, Salesforce does a great job at pulling in your information from a CRM to power things like knowledge, chat, as well as AI. But we know the reality is that not all your information is within Salesforce. And on top of it, it might never be in Salesforce, and that's okay. And so how can we still allow your teams, your agents, to leverage the tools that Salesforce offers, but you're still able to keep your legacy databases, your legacy systems that you've worked so hard to build? And so when you think about all the data that your service agent might need to serve their customers, they might need access to something like an Oracle for financial information. They might need access to SAP, so for your product history. They might need access to a lot of third-party databases, so that's where home loans comes in. They might need access to Jira as well as ServiceNow, so when there's an issue or incident with the product. And it soon becomes really clear that in order for you to help your agents to also give your customers the personalized, connected experiences that they need, you really need to think about integration. And that's where MuleSoft as well as Service Cloud really comes to life. So when you think about that connectivity, you really need to start understanding how you can unlock data in a way so that you can enable that single customer view for your agents across your teams. As I mentioned, MuleSoft is our integration platform. We really believe in using APIs to unlock information in a way so that it's reusable across your different teams. We also know and have talked to many of you guys, what are your most important systems of information? And what are your most common use cases? And in doing so, we have pre-built out-of-the-box templates, as well as connectors to things like SAP, NetSuite, Oracle, and more, to really help you enable more digital transformation across your service organization. And that's how we've been able to help our joint customers improve their agent productivity by 40%. And so this is a screen that I showed you again and again. Home loans was actually in that third-party database. And the reality is it's probably really difficult to actually have it housed within the agent. Now I'm really excited because Ryan will be showing you live how you're able to use MuleSoft as well as Service Cloud to pull in that information into the agent console. Ryan?
Thanks, Esther. I'm really thrilled that there are so many of you here. I see a lot of people in the back. Why don't you come on down? We have a bunch of seats in the front here. And if you don't mind, we even have space on the floor for seating, even some in the middle. So we'll take just a moment. Feel free to come on down, even fill in the walls on the side. So my name is Ryan. I'm a product manager at MuleSoft. And today I'm going to play the role of a Service Cloud administrator at LendingTree, where we offer home loans to our customers, and my job is to make the customer service team successful. So here we have our service console, and we have that, this is what the agent sees when a customer calls in, and we have that section for home loans on the bottom left, and this comes from a database, and our database contains information about home loans, where a home loan is an APR, a customer ID, a lender, a payment, and a rating. Now, in order to get this data into the Service Console, we're going to do a four-step process. First, we'll create a custom Salesforce object representing what home loans are. And this was actually like a cooking show done just before this session using the Salesforce Object Manager to save on our time here. So next, we will define a Salesforce Lightning UI component in order to display this information. Then we'll unlock the loan information from the database by defining an API with MuleSoft's Anypoint platform. And finally, we will build an integration that takes this information from the API and sends it into Service Cloud. So why do we want to build an API in order to unlock our information from the database? Well, let's look at what this database contains. It has information about order history, about credit history, about loan offers. A lot of this is not relevant to me as a Service Cloud administrator working on this project. And moreover, since I don't own this database, another team does, I need to ask for help to install custom drivers in order to access the database, to help with credentials, to help with querying the data across the tables. And it's even not in the right format, so I need help transforming the data to the right format. Now, how many of you have tried to access data from a database and faced some of these challenges before? Yeah, it can be quite challenging. And that's why we want to define an API. So when we define an API, then anybody who uses that API can easily access the data in the format that they need it. They can access only what is needed without being able to access other types of information. It's much easier to connect because we don't have to worry about custom drivers or special ways of authenticating. And it's future-proof, which means that if the database ever changes, all we have to do is change our API implementation, and we don't have to change all of the different systems, all the different integrations that are using that API for business purposes. So with that, let's get started. Here we have our custom loan object in Salesforce. And this is our loan offer object with the fields we looked at before. And we want to show it right here on the service agent's console page. So to do this, let's go to the gear at the top and choose Edit Page. And now we're in the Lightning App Builder. So in order to put this Lightning UI object right here, let's find a tab component and drag it right there. And let's give this tab a custom label. Let's call it Loan Details. Excellent. And now let's drag in a related list single. And we want to assign a parent record. In this case, I'll use the contact name, since we want each set of loan offers to be associated with a contact. And let's use, for our related list, the loan offers, which means that's the source of our detail, that custom object from before. And I'll change the view to a tile display. Excellent. So once I save, we see now in our Service Console page that we have that Lightning component, which is the scaffolding for what will be displayed. And now all we have to do is make sure we provide it with data. So to do this, now let's go ahead and define our API using MuleSoft's Anypoint Platform. So in case you are new to Anypoint Platform, this is our homepage. We have here Design Center on the upper left, where I can design APIs and integrations quickly. We have Exchange, where I can find reusable assets shared within my organization or provided by MuleSoft. And we have Management Center, and this is where I can manage APIs and monitor them. Let's go to Start Designing. And here from my Design Center project view, let's click Create. On the left, I can choose to build a new integration application. And on the right, I can define an API. So let's do that. And I'll give this new API specification a name, Customer Loan Offers API. And I'll use the new Visual Designer capabilities and choose Create. So now we're in API Designer, which is our web-based declarative tool for defining APIs quickly. And I can fill in the forms in the center, and the code is automatically generated for me on the right. Now, a quick primer in case you're new to APIs. An API is nothing more than a contract. It states any information that must be provided by a user in order to run a process or return information. And then it also states what information is returned to the user. And then separately, it can be implemented, meaning hooked up to the underlying systems. But it's essentially a standard way of enabling two different systems to communicate about the exchange of information. So in this case, we want to create an API that, when called, will return an array of loan offers. So let's go ahead and give this API a title. I'll call it Customer Loan Offers API. And let's give it a description. This is the loan API call, which will return back our customer loan offers. Perfect. So over on the upper left, I can choose to create a resource. And you can think of a resource as a noun that you can take an action on. So here, let's create a resource. And let's call this resource loan offers. Great. And so I can choose which of the actions I want to be able to take on this resource. And since this API will be used for getting loan offer information, let's leave it with the get action. I just added a response of type 200, which is our response when everything goes okay. And now I can choose the body that's returned. Let's provide an array of objects. And let's choose object here. And now I can define the properties that make up this object. And they're the same from that we looked at before. So let's choose lender name and set that to a string. Let's do, this should be customer ID. And set this to a string as well. So here we have rating, and this can be a number. So let's also add APR, and this will be a number, and let's make this a floating point number. And then finally, we have our monthly payments amount. And let's make this, we'll leave that as a string, and I can uncheck the required fields here. Excellent. So now we've defined the object, the array of objects that we want to return to the user. And I have this option to extract a data type, which essentially means to save this object, to give it a name, so that we can easily reuse it throughout our API. So let's click that. And let's name this data type. Call it customer loan object. There we go. All right. And we see that we get that code that's being automatically generated on the right. So one of the powerful features of API Designer is that I have the option to provide a set of sample data that the user receives. And this is a great way of making sure that my API works the way I want it to. So all I need to do is go over here, and let's click on that customer loan object and go to the example section and choose edit. And let's paste in some sample data. Great, we just see the code update on the right. And here we see that the code now is available in both the RAML specifications and also in the OAS specification. These are the two main specifications for defining APIs. So now we'll do another powerful thing with API Designer, and this is to set up the mocking service. The mocking service essentially enables me or any other user to send a sample call to this API and return back the sample data in order to see how it works. And the reason this is so powerful is that historically, a user would have to go ahead and implement this API, meaning hook it up to the underlying systems before it could ever be used. But with the mocking service, because any user can see how it works, it enables the users who are going to call the API to extract the data to work simultaneously with the users who are implementing it. And it's a really great way to speed up the delivery time of your organizations. So let's click this button. And then when I choose that loan offers resource and click try it over in the bottom right, let's send a request. Excellent. So we now see that 200 response showing everything is okay, and we see this array of loan offers, so we know exactly what the user is going to get back. So now that we've defined our API, let's publish it to Exchange. This is our repository to share reusable assets throughout our organization so others can easily find it. And API Designer automatically takes care of the versioning, So now that it's published, I can view the page on Exchange that users can see. Here, I can add a description. In this case, I'll paste in some text. If I wanted to, I could also add in pictures, even video. I could add some tags to help users search for it more easily. But this is a great way of explaining to users what our API does. And we can even see the different actions I can take. I can interact with that mocking service, so I can see what a sample call looks like. And now users can easily discover it and use this in their projects. So in just a few minutes, we've seen how easy it can be to define just one API. And at this point, somebody can use it in their project. They can also, somebody can go and implement it. But what happens when we define another API, and another, and another? Esther, tell us about this.
Thanks, Ryan. So as you just saw, it wasn't as painful as you would think to create a single API. At MuleSoft, though, what we believe very strongly in this approach that we call API-led. And it's really around using APIs to really enable you and your teams, your organizations, to build connected experiences faster. So I'm going to walk you through really quickly what API-led approach means. So the first step is using APIs to expose information from your underlying systems. Whether it's an SAP, a Jira, or ServiceNow, you build an API on top of it. Then in step 2, instead of needing to do any rework, all you would need to do is build additional APIs on top of them. And this level of abstraction allows you to build over time a repository of reusable assets, as you see here, to surface information into the end experience, such as Service Cloud. But what's really amazing about this is it doesn't matter anymore if the underlying systems change. This is an architecture that's built for scale, and it's also flexible. So let's say you're using Jira and you end up using something else. If you were to use point-to-point custom code, this architecture would then be unusable. But in using APIs, it doesn't matter anymore what the systems of information is. The APIs are still the same. And what makes me really passionate about our product is actually when you think about Project 2. So again, if you were to do this using point-to-point custom code, for Project 2, even if they're trying to pull in the exact same information, you would need to do all of this work again. But in using APIs, all you would need to do is create one additional API, as you see here, to expose it into something like a mobile app, which is your Project 2 instance. And this is what makes, again, me so excited about our product. One thing to note, at MuleSoft, not all APIs are considered the same, and there is a layered approach to them. So the first layer is what we call system APIs. Think about it really simply, how do we expose information from the underlying systems? Layer 2 is what we call process APIs. So how can we put on that business project logic on top of them? And then the last layer is what we call experience APIs. So what is the end experience that you want to expose all this data into, whether it's Service Cloud or a mobile app? Now I'm going to bring it back to Ryan to show you a little bit more about our product.
Thanks, Esther. Okay, well, now let's use that API that we defined before and build an integration that sends this data into Service Cloud. So once again, from the Anypoint Platform landing page, now let's choose Start Designing again. And we'll create our new project. Except this time, let's go to the left and create a new application. And I can give it a name. All right. So now we're in Flow Designer, which is our web-based, simple tool for building integrations easily. So the first step in the flow is the trigger, which starts the flow. And I want this API to work once a day to retrieve loan offers from our database and to update Service Cloud. And therefore, the first step will be to choose the scheduler component. And here I can change the time unit to days and the frequency to 1. Excellent. So next, I want to be able to take that, retrieve that loan information that we defined earlier. And so I can click the plus button, and here I can see any of the APIs that exist in Exchange. So let's call that Customer Loan Offers API, and it now exists as a connector. This is an optional field, so I can just close out of this. And let's just test this flow to see what's happening so far. So I go to the upper right and click Test. And now that it's running, we see green check marks flowing through each card. This shows us that data has successfully passed through. So let's open up that last card, and in any card, I can go to the Output tab to see a list of the records that have flown through the card. And here we see that array of loan objects from that sample data we provided to the API. So this is excellent. This shows us exactly the structure of the data that we want to retrieve. So now let's continue building. Since we have an array of loan offers, let's use the for each component in order to iterate through this array. So I click the plus button and go to the core components section and find for each. And that red dot indicates I need to drag some other cards into the for each scope. So let's add the plus button and choose the Salesforce component and choose the create single operation. Okay, now this is the point when I can enter my credentials in order to connect to Salesforce. And I want to show you something brand new now in Flow Designer. So no longer do you have to look through your sticky notes in order to hunt for your username and password every time you want to connect to a system. Now, if you've ever connected to a system before, you can make it reusable across projects. So you can easily just click the button and reuse a previous connection. And there's even more. Now you can use connections that are shared with you from other users. So here we see that I've previously connected to my personal Salesforce account, and we also have the Lending Tree Salesforce account that was shared with me from a different team, the integration team. So I can click that button and use this connection, and then I can also test it to make sure that the username and password are valid. And good, they are successful. So why is the ability to reuse a connection so important? Well, many integration scenarios require administrative permissions to the systems that we want to access. And so I don't personally have those in all cases, but other teams that own the connections can share connections with administrative permissions. And in addition, I don't want to connect with my personal username and password for everything, because if I change my personal username and password, or as an employee, if I leave the company, I don't want this integration to break for everybody else. So now I can use connections that are owned and maintained for this purpose. So now that we've saved it, tested it, let's save this connection. And we can choose the type of object we want to create in Salesforce. So let's find that loan offers custom object that we previously created. There we go. And let's close out of this card now. And the next step is I want to perform a mapping in order to make sure that the properties returned for me from that API are mapping properly to the properties required to create a loan offer object in Salesforce. So to do that, I can, first I'll adjust my screen here, and then I can add a transform card right before the Salesforce connector. So on the left, we see the properties required, the properties defining a loan offer that was returned from the API. On the right, we see the properties that I can use to create that Salesforce object. Now, I could manually drag and drop in order to create a mapping. I could also write a script if I wanted to create a more advanced mapping. But an even easier way is to click that preview button, which means that a mapping is automatically recommended for me using the AutoMapper, which is MuleSoft's machine learning engine. So let's preview a mapping, and let's apply it. And now we see a preview over on the right side with sample data of what this mapping is. And this is a great way of helping me to make sure that my mapping is correct by previewing my data at each stage throughout the process. So let's just adjust one more thing. Oh no, I just deleted a card by mistake, and I didn't save my work as I was working. How many of you has this happened to, where you're working on something and you forget to save your work, make a critical mistake? Well, now in Flow Designer, there's a brand new feature to help us recover from this. Let's go to that history button on the upper left. And we see that my project has been saving all along in the background. And let's go to the second to last state. Here I can see the cards, make sure they're as I want them to be. And then when I'm ready, I click that restore button at the top. And good, our project is back to the way we want it. All right, let's see this thing run. So in the upper right, let's click that test button. So now it's running, and now we see the green check marks flowing through the cards, showing us that all the data is passing through successfully. Let's swipe over into the service console and refresh the screen. And now in the bottom left, we see that those loan offers for the service agent exactly as we want them to be. So this is great. We've seen how to create a custom, a connected service experience in Service Cloud. But there's more that we want to do. We're not only interested in loan offers. We want to be able to show many, many different types of information in Service Cloud, and we want to be able to share this information across our other systems. And as a Service Cloud administrator, I don't have the domain knowledge about all the different types of systems and data that should be connected. But I can help other users in my organization in doing this for themselves. And a great way to do this is with something newly released for Flow Designer earlier this year, and that's to publish our project as a template. A template is nothing more than a Flow Designer project that can be imported and easily customized for different use cases. So let's see how that works. Back in Flow Designer, let's stop the test. And now go to that button at the top and choose Publish Template. I can give this template a name. In this case, Loans to Service Cloud. And click Publish. And let's view it in Exchange. And now we see this, this template portal page in Exchange. I can write a description. Anybody can easily find it. One of the great things about publishing templates is that anybody can customize it, but my private credentials are not shared along with the template in order to protect their security. Now, I also want to tell you about another thing brand new from MuleSoft, and this is an accelerator built specifically for Service Cloud. An accelerator is essentially a collection of APIs and templates that have common use cases for things that you'd want to connect. And this accelerator will help you to connect ServiceNow, Jira, Service Cloud, and databases. And a great thing about the accelerator is that it covers something we did not go into depth into today, and that is how to implement the APIs to connect them to your underlying systems in the back end. Thank you very much. Esther, why don't you close us out?
Cool. Great. Thanks, Ryan. So if you guys are curious about what other connectors, what other templates that we might have, I encourage you guys to visit our Exchange page. It's mulesoft.com/exchange. Feel free to poke around, feel free to explore. You can also sign up for a free 30-day Anypoint platform trial. Now, where do you go from here? I invite you and encourage you guys to join us at the integration keynote. It's tomorrow at 5 p.m. We showed you how LendingTree was able to use MuleSoft to connect information into Service Cloud, but in our integration keynote, we'll be actually showing how other customers have done similar things. So really exciting stuff. Skill up on Trailhead. It's free. There's a couple of MuleSoft basic trails, so that's a really easy and seamless way to get started as well. We'll be showing up in a variety of other events, so check us out at MuleSoft.com/events. We might be coming to a town near you. And last but not least, start your first API initiative, whatever that may be. Whether it's going to the exchange, just look around. Whether it's signing up for a 30-day trial, or actually checking out some of our training. We offer very easy one-day trainings to get you started. Thank you guys so much for spending some time with us at Dreamforce. And now we open it up to Q&A, so please feel free to stay behind or find us afterwards. Thank you.